Hi, this is John of Trish and John's Gardening Channel. Today is July 19th, 2015. It's been just about 2 weeks since we last came up in the garden and did a video. Wanted to give you a real quick update. First up in the forefront here, this is our grafted Amana Orange tomato plant that was grafted on Max Fort rootstock. We are now getting some fruit to develop there and also over here. So this plant has about 8 tomatoes on it at this point and is also continuing to flower and will produce more fruit throughout the summer. So we expect a lot out of this plant as opposed to its sister, in comparison, its sister plant, again an Amana Orange that was non-grafted here in the picture. Both these plants were planted on the same day. You can see there it does have fruit, not as many as the grafted plant, which is kind of interesting. But still, both plants are doing well, no blight yet, and it's mid-July, so I'm happy about that. Usually we get some blight condition early in the season, maybe even late June, so the fact that it's mid-July and we don't have any blight per se is really a good thing. So we've got our sunflower. This is a carryover sunflower. Just one thing I wanted to show you. We do have some birds that come up and munch on this flower. Not a big deal. I'd rather have them munching on my sunflower rather than my other tomato plants and whatnot. So next up would be our cucumbers, doing very, very well. Happy about these cucumbers this year. Didn't have a lot of luck in prior years due to bugs and whatnot, so very happy. We've already picked, you can see there in the shot, we've got one ready to go in the next day or so. Next up we have our sun gold. These plants, some of them are already 7 feet tall. These are just covered with tomatoes, mostly green at this point, as you can see there. Mostly green, but once these start turning, we're going to have tomatoes all summer long. We do have some, they come over here, that are starting to turn. Actually, Trish and I did pick a few. I might pick that guy right there today and eat him. But once these start producing throughout the summer, we'll have them now mid-July through September actually. So this is a good thing. I love growing sun golds in my garden. I have 4 plants this year, and we should get a lot of tomatoes. Those are nasturtium. Trish planted those. We like having those in the garden for attracting bees and whatnot. Let me just swing around here real quick. We do have our mystery tomato plant, very tall, at least 6 feet tall. This is planted in the ground. It's actually sending up more shoots. I've been cutting this guy back. It does have tomatoes back there. Kind of looks like a sun gold, but this is definitely not a sun gold. If anyone could kind of identify what this thing is, I would appreciate it. It's unlike any other tomato plant that I have in my garden. Cut it back vigorously because this thing was just at least double the size that you see here. And I'll probably cut it back a little bit more. I don't want this thing taking over. There is a Amana Orange. We do have some really good fruit back here. Hopefully you could see that. Now this plant has several, again way in the back there, several fruit on this plant. As opposed to the other Amana Orange, this is actually doing better than the grafted Amana Orange. Maybe the grafting process is not as worthwhile as it may seem, at least not yet, because this plant, again, it's an Amana Orange, is doing better than I would, at least in my opinion, than either of the other 2 Amana Orange that we looked at earlier in the video. So this is a San Marzano, real stocky, just sitting there producing fruit. I'll show you underneath. A bunch of fruit under there, all over the place, doing very, very well. So we should have a lot of San Marzano tomatoes in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Okay, next up we've got, not sure what that is. I think that's another Amana Orange actually. Very small though. It is producing. We've got some Brandywine Reds here. These are producing. These I just picked up at a local garden center. But they're doing quite well. They're probably around 3.5 feet or so. This other one is also a Brandywine Red. You can see there, producing. Beautiful. It's got the potato leaves, which I love. I expect this to produce. I don't think that'll be a problem. Now the one in the back there, over there, You can see those tomatoes. This plant is a big boy tomato. I expect that we should get some really good tomatoes off of that as well. More nasturtiums. We've got our oregano doing unbelievably well. I don't know if you remember in older videos we had cut that down and saved a whole bunch of dried oregano. We've got them in jars, so we're going to have another crop coming where we'll cut that down later in the next week or so and, you know, start the process all over again. So we've got dill. We've got our carrots. Now these are really slow growing. I mean, these have been in the ground at least 2 months. Doing okay. Bushed out. I didn't thin them as I probably should have. I'm not a big fan of thinning carrots, so I just let them go. We'll see what we get here. Not too concerned about that as far as production. If I get anything at all, I'll be very happy. Yellow squash. We've got straight neck squash here. Doing good. No bugs. We used to get, again, in years prior, as we did with the cucumbers, we had a lot of. There's one there. That guy. You know, we do have some beetles and whatnot, but years prior we had a lot of stink bugs on our squash plants, so we're keeping our fingers crossed. Make sure that we don't have any reoccurrence here. We've got our kale and our cilantro. Again, the cilantro is kind of going to seed, and I expected the kale to actually die back in the hot summer. We've got some 85-degree days here in Connecticut, but the cool nights I think are saving some of the plants like the kale, and they're just thriving. I mean, we've been picking off of these guys now for at least a month, probably 6 weeks, and you know, grab a bunch, take it home, and use it in a salad or whatnot. And it's been doing well, still producing. So Chinese 5-color peppers. Now these are pretty cool. Again, I'd never grown these before, but we do have all sorts of colors in there, as you can see. I think the one color we haven't seen yet is red, which I suspect these orange ones will turn red next. So I did try these. These are really spicy hot, really nice. But you can see here the plants doing very, very well. They're happy here, healthy. Also, we've got some Anaheims back there, also back there, as well as some mini bell peppers here. You can see here. Those are doing okay. Not sure I would plant the mini bells again. Not sure they're worth it. They just haven't produced just yet. We've got the watermelon doing well. Again, I planted this really because I found it in the home center. I typically don't grow watermelon here in the Northeast. I've found that you don't get production. You might get 1 or 2 small watermelons, but it is producing. Let me show you there. It is, we do have a baby watermelons growing, so female flowers, which is a good sign. So maybe, we will get something off of that. We've got our marigolds, our 4 o'clocks, which should be blooming in the next couple weeks here. Again, those are really cool to have in the garden for attracting bees. We've got our corn. I'm not sure if we're going to get anything off of this corn. It was really meant to be I'll say like a garden ornament. I happened to pick it up. They were on sale, so but they're growing. We definitely have some small little corns on there. We've got our zinnias that we planted a few weeks back. This is our Conjari melons. Doing okay. Last video that I shot a couple weeks ago, these were pretty beaten down. It's been raining here a lot, so they're coming back. Actually, who knows? We might get something off of these after all. Got some Swiss chard that I threw in the ground 2 weeks back. Doing good. Again, it's been cool nights, so things like the Swiss chard are kind of liking that. Got some eggplant. Again, these have come back, at least the 3 in the back. Probably doubled in size maybe since the last video. But the 2 in the front, again, I'm kind of giving up on those. They're just sitting there waiting for something. I'm not sure what. Next up would be our Italian plum tomato. These are the Walter D's. I last planted the seeds in 2007. Forgot I had the seeds. Had them in my toolbox actually, so drug these out and tried to plant them, and lo and behold, they are producing fruit. So I'm hoping that I can go ahead and get a couple good tomatoes off of these, save the seeds, and then hopefully, years going forward, we can actually have some more healthier plants and keep that tomato seed line going. So next up would be a black crim. You can see here we do have fruit on this plant. My black crim are not doing as well as they did last year. I do have a little bit of, I'm not sure what this is, some kind of a leaf curl. It's just like damp, if you will. Not sure what that's attributed to. I was hoping if someone could see this video and let me know. I mean, you'll have a section that just dies off like that. Not sure why. I have seen that in years past, but not on the black crim, so that's kind of new for me. You can see here that we are changing color, but loaded with tomatoes, but not doing as well, at least not yet. For the black crim, we've got pink Brandywine. These are, again, a tomato leaf, which I love. These are just about 4 feet tall. Doing okay. Not as well as the one in the back, but not doing too bad. So next we've got our tomato carbon, or carbon tomatoes, I should say. You can see here we are producing very well. We've got some cat facing going on there, as well as in the back, but producing. This is the first time that I've planted a carbon tomato, so not sure what we'll get, but so far so good there. We've got our Bachelor buttons and sunflowers here. We've got a couple pots we threw in, and the Bachelor buttons are starting to come in. They'll be blooming in the next week. Next up, again, this is another Amana orange. Doing okay. I would say it's about as doing as well as the grafted one, or close to it. You can see there we do have several tomatoes on that plant. This guy is a San Marzano, not doing as well as some of the other San Marzanos, but it is producing back there, although not as much. The next tomato plant would be a carbon tomato. Got a couple big ones there, at least that one there. You can see here, that guy might be 3/4 of a pound, maybe even a pound before we're done. So coming around, bear with me. Okay, next up we've got a Cherokee Purple. Again, we've got several tomatoes in the back there, here. This plant is stubby, but it's producing quite well. The next one would be our second of our two Walter D's. This one's got a fairly large tomato there that hopefully, again, we'll be saving the seeds. So, not doing extremely well, but doing okay. Now, again, I want to mention the wilting that's occurring. This is a Paul Robeson, and not sure if the Paul Robeson or the black crim are prone to this, but if anyone could tell me what this is, I would appreciate it. Just, it's very limp. Looks like they're moist if you touch them, so they're not dried out at all, but they're definitely dying off here. So I do have some tomatoes on this Paul Robeson, and I expect I'll get a couple off of this plant, but I may have to cut him back pretty soon. If it's some kind of a disease, I don't want it to go ahead and move from plant to plant. So I've got another Cherokee Purple here. You can see this guy. That's the one that was cat facing. He's doing quite well. I mean, again, I'm getting a bunch of tomatoes off these plants, but they're not as prolific, I'll say, as I've had them in years past. I think it might have something to do with the weather. We've had very cool nights, a lot of rain, more rain than usual. You can see there, that's one of the largest pink Brandywines that I've got, but this plant is just loaded. If you look at this plant here, there's 4 right there. There's a couple there. You know, we've got 3 here, more up here. So this plant, let me go back here, is probably now at least 5-6 feet tall, is in a grow pot, so that makes it a little taller, but it is at least 5 feet, going on 6 feet tall, doing very, very well. More San Marzanos. Again, the San Marzanos, the seeds we got from straight from Italy, so I'm not sure they're liking this Connecticut weather as much as I thought they might. So, but they're still producing, just not as healthy of a plant as I would have expected. Again, the next 3 here, the one there that we saw a little earlier, the one in the back, this guy in the forefront, and this plant over here. These are all black crim. Doing well. You can see the black crim, the shoulders here do have a tendency to crack like that. That's not a big deal. That's actually telltale sign that they are black crim, because they like to do that. So not a big deal at all. Tomatoes still taste the same. Again, more tomatoes over here. My sunflower has died back. Not sure if I'll even try to save the seeds there, but who knows. So swing around here. This is our comfrey. I've been letting that go. Again, this is a very good, I'll say herb. I'm not sure if it's an herb, but very good plant to have in your garden. We use this for compost. In the next week or so, I'm going to be cutting this down by at least 2/3 and making a compost tea out of this stuff. You know, shred the leaves, shred the stems as well, and go ahead and steep that for a couple weeks in the hot sun, and it makes an excellent compost tea. So that'll be coming up in another video. So that's it for today. Again, July 19th. Garden's doing pretty well. Can't complain. Tomatoes doing okay, not as well as I would have liked. Again, I attribute that to the rain. We have had a lot of rain here and very hot days and cool nights, so we're all over the place as far as the weather. We need some really steady 80-degree days. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like us on YouTube, also Google+. If you're following us on Google+, that would be fantastic. Other than that, have a really good day, and we'll be catching up with you guys very soon. Have a nice day. Cheers.